Hey everyone, these are the parallel lines and triangles guided notes. Let's get started. First of all, for this first page, you are going to need a protractor. So if you don't have one, go get one. It tells us line AB is parallel to line CD. So this line right here is parallel to this line right there. Given that these lines are in the same plane, they will never intersect. Line EF right here is a transversal, meaning the line passes through the two lines. It says use a protractor to measure the following angles. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to measure all the angles first, label them here on my diagram, and then I will write the measurements in the table. Let's start with this angle right here, angle EGB. So take your protractor and put the middle point right there on the point G. And then you need to make sure that your protractor is lined up with that line. Now, depending on the protractor you have, it will either be the edge of the protractor or you'll have another line that's lined up. And see how it's at 0? That's how I know it's lined up correctly. EGB is an acute angle because I can tell that it's less than 90 degrees. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to look. This arrow is pointing to 60 and 120. I know the correct answer is 60 because I know it's less than 90 degrees. So I'm going to label that angle as 60 degrees. I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to measure this angle right here, EGA. I know this is greater than 90 degrees. So I'm going to look up to right here where it's pointing to, and in this case, it's going to be 120 degrees. Let's slide down the protractor and measure these angles down here. I'm looking at the angle GHD. I know it's an acute angle or less than 90. So I look up to this and it's pointing to 60 and 120. I know the correct answer is 60 because it's less than 90. So I'm going to label this 60 degrees. Leave it there for angle CHG. This one is greater than 90 degrees, so this one's going to be 120 degrees. I'm going to need to rotate my protractor to measure the angles of these other ones. I'm just going to flip it upside down. Put it again on point G. I'm going to measure this angle right here, BGH. It's going to be greater than 90, so I can see up here. It's pointing to 60 and 120, and I know the correct answer will be 120 because it's greater than 90 degrees. I'll keep it there for this angle right here. AGH, again, it's going to be up here and it's going to be 60 degrees because it's less than 90. Slide it down to measure the angles down here. Put it on point H. Angle DHF is obtuse, greater than 90, so it's going to be 120 degrees. And angle FHC right here is going to be 60 degrees. So notice that all my angles are either 60 or 120. With angle measurements, it says the letters in order. So for example, EGA, G will be where the vertex is. So angle EGA will be 120 degrees. EGB is 60. Angle FGA is this angle right here. FGA, so that's 60. Angle FGB is this angle right here, is 120. Angle CHE is this angle right here, 120 degrees. Angle EHD, this angle, 60 degrees. Angle CHF is this angle, 60 degrees. And angle DHF is 120 degrees. On the diagram, mark all the 120 degrees with one color and all the 60 degrees with another color. So there's my angles colored. Now we're going to talk about definitions of angles. It says to define the following types of angle pairs and find examples on page 1. Vertical angles are opposite angles formed when two lines intersect. So going back to page 1, this angle right here, EGB, and also this angle right here, they are opposite angles. They are formed with these two lines that intersect. Corresponding angles are two angles that have the same relative position when a line passes through two other lines. So back to the diagram right here, this angle right here would be corresponding to this angle. You see how they're both in the upper left? This angle right here would be corresponding to this angle, same relative position. This angle and this angle would be corresponding, and this angle and this angle would be corresponding. So we will give the example EGA and angle EHC. That gives these two angles right here. Alternate interior angles are when a line passes through two other lines, the angles that are on the inner side of the two lines but are on opposite sides of the transversal. So flipping back to our diagram, these angles right here are going to be the inner angles. So the alternate interior angles would be, for example, this pair and this pair, or this pair and this pair. So we will say angles AGH and angle GHD. Alternate exterior angles, when a line passes through two other lines, the angles that are on the outer side of the two lines, but on opposite sides of the transversal. These angles right here are the outer or exterior angles. So the alternate exterior angles would be this one and this one, or this one and this one. So we will say angles EGB and CHF. Supplementary angles are two angles whose sum is 180 degrees. We can see that it's 180 degrees on a diagram if it forms a line. For example, this angle and this angle form this line right here, and there's lots of them that form 180 degrees, but we will say angles EGB and angle BGH. So a quick review of this diagram. Notice what angles are the same. So these angles are all going to be the same, and then these angles are all going to be the same. Corresponding angles will be the same. Alternate interior angles will be the same. Alternate exterior angles will be the same, and vertical angles will be the same. This will be true for any line that transverses two parallel lines. Use your knowledge about parallel lines cut by a transversal to determine the measure of the angles below. So it tells us that angle 1 is 105 degrees. Angle 2 is 75 degrees because it's supplementary to angle 1. Remember that supplementary means that it forms 180 degrees. So this angle and this angle form a line. So I know the sum of them has to be 180 degrees. So I know that one has to be 75. Angle 3, opposite angle 2, is also 75 degrees because it's vertical to angle 2. See how this angle and this angle are opposite or vertical angles? That means they have the same measure. Angle 4, we're going to say, is also 105 degrees because it is vertical to angle 1. Now I could also say angle 4 was 105 degrees because it was supplementary to angle 3 or supplementary to angle 2. You will notice with a lot of these proofs, there are often more than one reasons for the justification. Angle 5 is 105 degrees because it corresponds to angle 1. So remember, corresponding angles have the same measure, so that's also 105 degrees. What would angle 6 be? Well, we could say it's corresponding to angle 2. We could also say that it's supplementary to angle 5. Either one would be fine. Angle 7, I could say it's vertical to angle 6, so it's also 75 degrees. I could say it's corresponding to angle 3, so it's also 75 degrees. I could even say that it's an alternate interior angle to angle 2, so it's 75 degrees. Either one of those would work. Angle 8, I have lots of justifications for the measure. I could say it's corresponding to angle 4, so it's 105. I can say it's vertical to angle 5, so it's 105. Supplementary to angle 6. I could even say alternate exterior to angle 1, so it has the same measure. Let's do another one. Practice. Determine the measure of the angles. And see these little symbols right here? That's telling me that these two lines are parallel. Explain your reasoning. I always like to start with the given information. It tells you that angle 4 is 55 degrees, and we can just write given because that information is given to us. I don't have to go in order, just whatever I can figure out I'm going to write down. Angle 4 is 55, angle 1 is opposite, so it has the same measure because they are vertical angles. If I know angle 1 is 55, the corresponding angle is angle 5, so that also has to be 55 degrees. And if angle 5 is 55, angle 8 also has to be 55 because it's vertical to angle 5. Let's figure out angle 2. Angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary angles, meaning they have to equal 180 degrees. So 180 minus 55 is 125 degrees. If angle 2 is 125, angle 3 has to also be 125 because they are vertical angles and they have the same measure if they are vertical angles. If angle 3 is 125, angle 7 has to be 125 because they are corresponding angles. And if angle 7 is 125, angle 6 has to be 125 because those are vertical angles. Let's use our knowledge about parallel lines cut by a transversal to analyze the angles of a triangle. Below we have a triangle with angles right here, A, B, and C. Closely follow the directions below on the diagram. So I am going to make this a little bit smaller so I can have the directions and the diagram shown in the same image here. Extend all sides to be lines rather than line segments. So I'm going to extend all these line segments and to make them lines. Draw a line through point C that is parallel to line C. Line through this point that is parallel to this line. Is it always possible to draw a line through a point that is parallel to another line? Yes, a line through a point can be drawn with any slope. Looking at the parallel lines cut by the transversal little a, mark the alternate interior angle that also measures the same as angle B. We're looking at these parallel lines and we're looking at this transversal. We want to mark the angle that's alternate interior angle to this B angle right here. So the alternate interior angle will be this angle right here if we're looking at this line as the transversal and these as the parallel lines. Looking at the parallel lines cut by the transversal little b, mark the alternate interior angle that also measures the same as angle A. So now we're going to look at the parallel lines with this as the transversal. So angle A right here, the alternate interior angle would be this angle right there. Circle the three angles that form the line parallel to line C. So this is the line parallel to C that we drew, and the three angles that form it are these three right there. All lines measure 180 degrees. Since angle A, B, and C form a line, angle A plus angle B plus angle C will also equal 180 degrees. Since these angles form a line which is 180 degrees, and these angles are the same as those three angles, you've just proven that the angles of a triangle will also equal 180 degrees. Practice. Determine the measure of angle C, angle D, and angle E. Explain your reasoning. Angle C measure. This is 75, this is 45, and they form a triangle. So the angles of a triangle have to equal 180. So angle C will equal 180 minus 75 minus 45, which will equal 60 degrees. Angle D, which is this angle right here, it tells me by that little marking right there, see this little marking on the line? That's indicating that these two lines are parallel. If we look at this as the transversal, then angle D and this 75 degrees are alternate interior angles. Therefore, they will have the same measure, and angle D will be 75 degrees. Now it's asking for angle E, and the same argument can be made. These two lines are parallel. This line right here is the transversal. So angle E and this 45-degree angle are alternate interior angles, and therefore they have the same measure. So angle E will be 45 degrees. All right, we are given this diagram right here. It says the sum of angle R, S, and T, which are these three angles right here, notice that they form this triangle right here. Therefore, the sum of them has to be 180 degrees because they form a triangle. An exterior angle of a triangle is the angle formed by a side and the extension of the adjacent angle. So if I look at angle R right here, the exterior to angle R is this angle right here, angle U. So it's formed by extending that line and that side right there. The exterior angle to angle S would be angle V. And the exterior angle right here to angle T would be angle W. If the measure of angle R is 40 degrees, let's write that on our diagram. The measure of angle U is, so this is 40, and U is going to be 180 degrees minus 40 because this angle and the exterior angle will form a line, which is 180 degrees. So to figure out u, I can go 180 minus 40, which is 140 degrees. If the measure of angle r is 40, the measure of angle t plus s is, so if this is 40, the measure of these two would have to be 180 minus 40 because they form a triangle. So the sum of these, t plus s, would be 180 minus 40. What do you notice about angle u and angle t plus s? So we figured out that angle u is going to be 140 degrees because it is supplementary to angle r. And we figured out t plus s, if I sum these two right here, they're also going to be 140 degrees because this is a triangle. So notice that angle u and then these opposite angles right here, the sum of them are going to be the same. If the measure of angle t is 80, what is the measure of angle w? So let's go back up here. The measure of angle t is 80. So w right here, this angle, which is supplementary, will be 180 minus 80. So that's going to be 100 degrees because they are supplementary. If the measure of angle t is 80, then the measure of angle r plus s is, so we know that the measure of r plus s has to also be 180 minus 80 because they form a triangle. So summing these two together will be 100 as well. What do you notice about angle w and angle r plus s? So angle w and angle r plus s we determined would be equal, and that's going to be true of all triangles and exterior angles. The exterior angle will be equal to the sum of these two opposite angles. The exterior angle of a triangle will always be equal to the sum of the other two angles of a triangle. Practice. Determine the measure of angle A. Explain your reasoning. There's a couple ways I could do this, but using the knowledge that I gained on the previous page, angle A will equal 30 plus 25 because it's an exterior angle to this angle, and so it's going to be the sum of these two opposite angles. So it's going to be 55 degrees because exterior angle A will be equal to the sum of the opposite two angles. Congruent angles have equal measure. So if we say the angles are congruent, we're saying that they measure the same. Similar triangles have congruent angles, meaning the same measurement of angles, and proportional side lengths. Are the triangles below similar? Well, they have congruent angles, 55, 90, and 35. And because all of these angles are congruent, they are also going to have proportional sides. So yes, the triangles are similar. What if you are only given the measure of two angles like in the diagram below? Are the triangles similar? Well, again, we have 60, 65. I don't know this angle, but I could figure it out by doing 180 minus 60 minus 65. And that it will give me 55 degrees. Now, I don't necessarily need to figure that out. I'm just figuring it out to show you that I can figure out the third angle. So 65, 60, and 55. So are the triangles similar? Yes, because all the angles are congruent. To determine if two triangles are similar, you actually only need to know that two angles are congruent because the measure of the third angle will also be the same since the sum of the angles is 180 degrees. Practice. Determine if the following pairs of triangle are similar. Explain your reasoning. If not enough information is given, write not enough information. So on this first one, we are given that two angles are congruent. This is enough information to tell us that the triangles are similar. We will know automatically that the third angles are also congruent because they will all equal 180 degrees. Let's look at the next question. It tells us that this is 90 degrees and this is 90 degrees. Now, we don't know the measures of these other angles. They could be the same, they could be different. So they could be similar, but we don't have enough information to know if these angles are the same. We need at least two angles to determine if they are similar. We're going to write not enough information. Looking at these last two triangles, we have 40 and 100 degrees, and then we have 40 and 110 degrees. So those will not be similar because not all the angles are congruent. This right here is 100 and this one's 110. So that's enough to tell us that they will not be similar. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. Thank you.